Welcome back to Biz Talk, everyone. I am your host, Rachel Weaver. I have a very special guest with me today. His name is John Mitchell. John has been working in the tax field since 1990. He holds a Master of Science in Taxation and holds both a law license and an enrolled agent license. John is a member of the National Association of Enrolled Agents and the National Association of Tax Professionals. John is on the board of directors of the Texas Society of Enrolled Agents and the Greater Houston chapter of TaxC. John is a recognized expert in the field of taxation, being a fellow of the National Tax Practice Institute. John, welcome to Biz Talk. We are grateful to have you today.
Rachel, I am so happy and pleased to be here. Glad to, be with you again and be able to share some good information with the audience out there. Now, just fair warning. I mean, you after that introduction, Rachel, I gotta say, man, my head, I gotta make sure that my head fits in this frame. So, thanks for that very warm welcome as always, Rachel. It's really good to see you again.
Thank you. So great to see you as well. Well earned. The introduction was well earned. But I want to dive right in because this is an important topic and we could talk for hours, but we only have minutes. So, tax identity theft. It has been happening for a very long time, unfortunately, but we don't often talk about it. And I think that we need to bring awareness to it because we're hearing stories of it happening more recently again and again. So, what exactly is tax identity theft? And how do you handle it with the IRS if you find out that someone has stolen your tax identity?
Yeah, like I said, Rachel, you are sure right. That is a very, very common thing, all too common. So sorry to say, people out there just, I guess, looking to make that quick buck and just do anything and don't care how it affects other people. So I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, you're right. And I had somebody just come in with a problem like this to my office last week. Nearly in tears, not only are they not going to get their tax refund that they were expecting and counting on, that as we all do in this economy the way it is today, but also the IRS is now sending them letters, dunning notices. You owe us money, and John, we're at wits end. We don't know what to do about this now. Tax identity theft, one of the main things that it can take a couple of different forms. All right. One common thing that people do, folks out there with the criminal intent will go ahead and get a hold of your information. Okay, and what they'll do is they will file what purports to be a tax return, and it's considered a tax return by the IRS. And so they send in a quote unquote, I'm putting in air quotes here, right? So they send in a tax return, and the IRS will send them money. So they have now gotten the money that you should have gotten, and probably even more, right? So that's one of the things that can take place. How do they get a hold of your information? I mean, myriad of ways. You can buy it on the dark web. Sometimes they're people, they'll buy it from like secretaries that work in offices, accounting offices, or tax offices, or sometimes doctor's offices, because they've got all your social and all your information. And so they'll buy that information and then use that to log in electronically, file what purports to be a tax return, and capture that money. And then you are odd man out if you're waiting for your tax refunds. That's one thing. Another way that tax identity theft happens, it's a little bit different. We've got the crisis at the border going on, and sometimes what happens, somebody will work a job, okay, and they'll use your social security number. And so what can happen with that is you're living your best life, and all of a sudden you get notices from the IRS that you owe this extra money because of income that you had. Only guess what? It wasn't your income. You didn't work, you didn't make that money, But since somebody out there worked a job, or maybe even I've seen this be with Uber Eats. I've seen this happen with Lyft and DoorDash. And people will just sign up. Maybe their credit's damaged or whatever the case may be, and they couldn't get approved on their own. They'll go ahead and make up an identity and use your name and your social and start working, and all that income, now the IRS is knocking on your door looking for looking for money for you to pay taxes on money that you never even earned. So those are two of the kind of main ways that tax identity theft can happen and
Wow.
affect people.
So interesting.
Mhm.
So how do you handle it? I mean, is there some kind of affidavit you can file? Is there what do you do if this happens to you?
Right. If this happens, I mean, strap in and get prepared, because it's a kind of a long slog to get this stuff worked out, right? The first step that you would want to do, like if I woke up tomorrow and a letter from the IRS and said I owed money for income that I don't recognize, very first thing I would do is I would call up the IRS. Or log on, as the case may be, and try and get a printout, try and get a transcript, so the IRS will tell me what is in their records, what income do they think that I made, right? And so that would be one thing. And if it's the other kind of identity theft, by the way, you're going to know it, because when you go to file your tax return, if you do so electronically, it's going to come back with an error message and say, no, sorry, you already filed. And you're like, beg your pardon, excuse me, no, I didn't. And so then that's when you call the IRS. And the very first thing you're going to do, what I would do, is file an identity theft affidavit. And you can Google that, or you can come to a professional like me. And I've got that kind of on speed dial, so to speak. So you would just file the tax identity theft. And if a tax return has not been filed, because here's the thing, right? If there's case law, what really legally constitutes a tax return, okay? So it is called the beard test. I always remember this, because I always think of a guy, stroking his beard, right? Thinking if this is a real tax return or not, right? So the beard test has a checklist of items. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but basically, the important thing here is, if you did not sign off on that tax return and you did not authorize it to be filed, then that's not a real tax return. I've had to go back and forth many times in the past with the IRS on this. They said, well, if it wasn't correct, have your client file an amended return. But no, they're entitled to file their original tax return. So you fill out the identity theft, you fill out your 1040. You're not going to be able to do this electronically now, unfortunately, but fill it all out, send it in, and wait for the IRS machinery to work its way through. And that's going to be, sorry to say, your best bet, even though that's not, I've seen this take 2.5 years to get worked out. So you're in it for the long haul, but if you do the proper steps, it'll take a while, but it'll get worked out.
Very good. Well, such great information. I appreciate that. And always, always contact an expert, in my personal opinion. If anything like this happens, contact someone like John. John, where can the audience find you?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I am here in Houston, Texas, of course, the Space City, beautiful Houston. It's beautiful outside now, anyway, right now, as we film today, right? So, Greenway Plaza is my office, but we deal with clients all over the United States and even internationally. And so I can be reached at my telephone number, 713-333-0555. And the other way to reach me, a really good option, is email jmitchell at cctaxlaw.com. I've handled dozens and dozens of these identity theft cases. If you are out there and you want to, hit me up, that's absolutely no problem. I've got the steps, I know them by memory, so no problem at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to having you back again very soon. And with that, we will be right back after this commercial break.